Your car in revs hard. Have a look at Bill Pearson, see what he can do. Bill Pearson, the Honda Civic, worked his way up. Whoa, and he's almost over the turban. He was very close to going. Worked his way up. Whoa, and he's almost over the turban.
Now I've got the front guards roughed out on the new bodywork for this car, I can start work on the air dam for this one-piece flip-up front end. When I sculpted this one, I had to allow enough clearance for rough dirt tracks when I was racing through the trees, but in its fourth phase the muscle hatch will only be used on the bitumen. That means I can drop this front lip right down and get some real effect out of it. I also have to blend in the front air dam to the much wider flared front guards that I've made. So a whole new sculpture is required. I've taken a lot of measurements off the existing car to make sure that I maintain the ground clearance between the bottom of the V6 sump and the road. And then I've taken the front wheels off this car and I've positioned it so that it's at the exact same ride height at the front as that car. And then, because I didn't have a bump bar on this car when I got it, I made a thin copy of my original one back there, and that'll do for sculpting. I put a baseboard here that will give me the clearance I want. I'm going for about 70mm clearance off the ground. I toyed with 50mm and thought, no, that's just going to be too low. I'm not worried about clearancing going on and off the car trailer, because with a one-piece flip-up front end, I'll just be able to pull the bonnet pins and jack it up a little bit for loading and unloading. But on the tracks themselves, I figured 70mm is about the way to go. So I put this board 70mm off the ground, and now I've got to graft this piece of tin on here and lower this down. And rather than just have a square look like that, I'm going to mimic what I did on the other car. I'm going to put a bevel in there to direct the air up to the vents where I want it to go. Things are progressing well with the sculpting of the new Phase 4 air dam for the Civic. You can see the tin extension that I added, and I've got the chipboard baseboard, which is 70mm off the ground, giving me my clearance. You can see where I've added these triangular ribs. They will be clad with thin MDF sheet, about 3-4mm thick. And the tricky point is blending the lip on the spoiler up to the flares. And so I've used a series of ribs cut out of timber and screwed to the baseboard. The other thing I wanted to blend was this edge, so I've been very careful to get the side here upright so that it's square, because I'm going to put a fin on the side here. But this will be clad and go up and run up to the wheel arch. But this in effect is being used as a wing surface as well. Cut the hole out ready for the plate to take the big air cleaner. And the trick in making something like this is when you make one rib, go over and make the other one. So I'm going from left to right, backwards and forwards all the time, making sure that everything's made the same way and the same height at the same spacing. That way I'll get the same shape on both sides of the car, which is obviously very important. You don't want one side different to the other. So that's the way I'm trying to get symmetry, by moving from making one wedge to the other, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. This is fairly close now to being able to be clad with the MDF sheet. And I haven't yet attached all the timber work to the tin. I'll pull that out, drill holes in here, and then put it back in and put screws through and lock this in. But once I lock all of this onto the front bumper bar, I need to join it to the flare, and then I need to separate it through here where the mould is going to be split, because my mould flange is going to be across the bonnet line, right through the middle of the headlight, and then right through that point there. So at the point at which I attach this down the bottom, I will then need to cut the guard there, and then I can blend all of this in, because the front air dam needs to be taken off the car to be both moulded and to be made as part of the one-piece front end processes that you'll see later on. But there's no way you would be able to clad this in place with fiberglass, because your fiberglass would just fall away from that. So this whole front section needs to be removable so it can be turned 90 degrees, and then it's easy to fiberglass. Few, if any, body fabricators show their work until it's all finished and nice and neat and tidy, because there's some very messy steps in doing this. There's lots of trial and error in car sculpting, and quite often you've got to cut parts 2 and 3 times before you get them right, and then even then you've got to fill in the gaps with carbog. Right now I'm definitely at the ugliest stage of this process, but if you never see it, you'll never know how to do it, and you'll never have the confidence to start it and to keep going once you start it.